Welcome into the Bite Meat Podcast. As always, I am John Lopez, and it is always brought to you by Texas Star Grill Shop. And really excited for all the podcasts that we do. But this is one that really doesn't have a lot of crossover with a lot of the pitmasters that you've heard and seen on the Bite Meat Podcast. We talk a lot of brisket. We talk a lot of ribs and chicken, and we talk to some CEOs, and we talk to pitmasters from Aaron Franklin to Leonard Botello to Grant Pinkerton to some of the biggest names in the game. But we don't always focus on what we're going to focus on today. And to be honest, my guest is Kimi Werner, and I'll get you some more information on her. She's amazing, spearfishing champion, free diver. I'm sure she kisses babies, conservationist, chef, pretty much everything that's out there. But I appreciate you guys joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get it. Now, Kimi, did I miss anything that you do? I know you've been all over the place, and you are in, just for our listeners' sake, I believe, Oahu area?
I am. I live on the North Shore of Oahu, grew up on Maui. Yeah, definitely love all the things of spearfishing, cooking, and kissing babies.
and kissing babies. Who doesn't? All right, so here's why it's always been so interesting to me, because I have actually two podcasts that have been, become thankfully wildly popular. One of them is called Bite Me, and it's about fishing and outdoors and conservation and ecosystem and all that. And one is Bite Meat, play of words there, which is about cooking and barbecue and some of the great things we do in this industry. And I feel like you could be on both. I feel like you could be on both of these podcasts, because what really intrigues a lot of people about what you do, and you have a million followers all over platforms. We'll get the platforms here to everybody later. And also you have a really cool book that's coming out or is out. We'll get to that and some of the things you do. But let's get to the story. Obviously, did the cursory, rudimentary research, but on what you've done, because it intrigued me. But you've been basically since out of diapers, in the water, around spearfishing and diving, right?
That is true. Or at least in the very beginning part of my life, that was true. There was kind of a hiatus after that. But when I was about 5 years old, that's when I got my true introduction to the concept of spearfishing. My parents had me in the water since I was a baby, before I could even walk. And so I was very comfortable in the water. But when I was 5, my dad actually started letting me tag along as he would go free diving on the coast, along the coast of Maui, in search of dinner. And this was just something he did because he wasn't making much money at the time. Neither was my mom, and he just had to feed his family. And so that's how he literally put food on the table, as he went into the ocean, held his breath, swam down to the bottom of the ocean, either speared fish or grabbed an octopus or a lobster, and that's what fed us. And and when I was 5, I got to tag along and just watch that, and it was just absolute magic to me. And that was my introduction.
The couple of interesting things there for me. The aspect of, you poor thing, you had lobster and fish and octopus. You probably didn't even realize that that's stuff that people, just go head over heels about now. But that was just the grocery store, wasn't it?
It was absolutely the grocery store. And one thing I didn't realize my family was poor, because we had everything that most people strive to have by the time you retire. We had a home. We rented a little shack, but it was in Hawaii. We ate lobsters for dinner, and we had a lot of time spent doing amazing things together.
Yeah. And the other thing that really intrigued me from the very start is free diving. Obviously, you've grown up, you've become wildly popular and successful. You don't have to free dive anymore, but there's a purity to that, or what is it about free diving that makes it so intriguing to you?
Well, the list goes on and on, but I would have to start with presence. The minute I am in that world, the minute I just put my head underwater, and it literally feels like I am leaving one world and entering another. And there's just something about that just makes me 100% present, which for me is the most beautiful thing in the world, because my brain as I told you earlier when we weren't recording, it's a very noisy place. It's like constantly, it's a lot of moving parts and a lot of noise in my brain. And when I actually find something that keeps me present in the moment, everything goes quiet. And I am not hearing all these different conversations of what needs to be done or this or that. I am just looking at what's in front of me and taking it in. And to me, that is a beautiful, beautiful feeling. And there's nothing that can hold me in a state of presence like being underwater. So that's one thing. But also just the magic of being absolutely immersed into that world and having to hold your breath, I've tried scuba diving. I've gone underwater on tanks and it's fascinating in its own way. But to me, like you said, the purity of free diving, it's something where in order to leave the surface, swim down to the bottom of the ocean, hang out there long enough to shoot a fish, in order to hold your breath for that long, the only way you can do it is if you make yourself relax. That's the only way that your body can even conserve oxygen that long. And so I had to bring myself into such a relaxed state in order to do that. And that feels like pure therapy and meditation alone. But also it makes me feel like, I feel like the Little Mermaid, but it makes me feel like a part of that world. It really makes me feel like a part of that world. It makes me feel like another sea creature. It makes me understand that this is somewhere where humans can go and can go comfortably if we train ourselves to be there. And there's something about being in that world, being a part of that ecosystem, being completely immersed in it, that just gives me such a more profound sense of respect and appreciation. And it's the work. It's hard work. It's not easy. Like you hold your breath and swim down there, wait it out. You don't have any air, and then have to get a fish to come close enough to spear it, and then struggle with that thing back up to the surface. Like that work that I put in. Of course, there's far easier ways to get, dinner on my table at night, but man, the appreciation, and I know I don't have to tell you or your listeners this, but like the appreciation when you really earn something, it just far surpasses convenience always for me.
Oh, that was perfect. That was very well said. I know our listeners are also thinking, okay, how long can she stay down there? So let's get to that. What are some of the parameters of a typical free dive for you?
Well, my longest breath hold is just short of 5 minutes. And my deepest dive of just swimming down and up was 159 feet. One time my friend was dropping his anchor off the boat and I held onto the anchor and I rode it down to 180. But a typical dive, it can vary. I like to hunt shallow a lot. I'll go diving in 15 to 30 feet of water, but I love diving in that 80 to 100 feet too. And I usually hold my breath for about 2 minutes when I'm hunting, to be conservative, because things can always happen down there. You could see a shark and your body could just explode inside with fear. There goes your oxygen, all to just that adrenaline, and you're gonna be in trouble if you're at the end of a breath hold and that happens. Or you could shoot a big fish and it could fight you so hard that all your oxygen goes to those muscles that are fighting it back while you're not breathing. Big trouble. That fish could wrap around a rock and get stuck down there. Big trouble. So it's really important to me to keep my dives relatively short when it comes to what I know I can do, but what I choose to do so that I can stay safe.
And it also speaks, you mentioned purity. To me, it also speaks to, in a weird way, conservation. Like you're doing it naturally, you're doing it organically. And I'm guessing that's part of it as well. You touched on that a little bit.
I mean, absolutely. I don't think there's anything that can get more selective, and that's what I think of when it comes to conservation. There's a few things that I think of. I guess the first thing would be connection. When I think of conservation, I feel like your connection to this natural world or to this species of whatever you're hunting is going to be the biggest key to conservation, because the more you learn about something and love it, the more you're going to understand how to take care of it. And so for me, just being immersed in this world and being able to see the beauty of it and see like the footprint that I'm leaving when I take something, that's where my conservation starts. But also it's really cool because I'm actually in this world, seeing all the fish, seeing how many there are of this, what sizes there are. I can see things, which is so unique to fishing, right? And I can like select which one I'm going to choose.
What are some of the primary target fish? I'm curious on that too.
Oh, I mean, here in Hawaii, I really love this gray snapper. We call it uku. That's the Hawaiian word, but it's a beautiful gray snapper that can get quite large, and it's just delicious. I love this other fish. It's like an emperor fish, but we call it mu, and they're just so hard to hunt, but so delicious to eat. But but when it comes to all over the world, I love them all. I really do.
And you've been all over the world, if you want to share some of that.
I have. I've been lucky enough to shoot dogtooth tunas in Africa, which are this really gnarly, jagged like tuna-looking fish. Yellowfin tuna, in Panama and Mexico. Everything from just like groupers, fish in Alaska, in Japan, like really all over, but they're all delicious. I've shot, they call it vidiola, but it's yellowtail, like the hamachi, but in Chile is so delicious. I just shot this Spanish mackerel on my last trip to Fiji. That was insane. And I love that. I love the variety and the diversity that I've been exposed to with all these travels.
And the other thing is messaging. I mentioned your footprint on social media platforms and such. If you want to share that in the course of this answer, because the messaging from the Bite Me podcast, my fishing podcast, has always been, catch and release, keep what you want to eat that night. We only have, as you've been talking about, we only have the one ocean, in our case, the bays and the Gulf. What is your messaging right here for our audience in terms of that aspect of it?
I guess my main messaging is to truly know where your food comes from and to truly understand the story behind it, because I think that alone is a huge part of conservation, because it makes me really happy when I'm able to serve a meal and I know this animal. I know that it lived a wild life. Like, yes, it had one bad day, and I was a part of that. But it does make me. It makes me happy to know that that this was a wild animal that I took from a natural ecosystem, and then to share it with others. So that's another big part of my messaging is sharing. To share it with others and to share the story of this fish or whatever it is, venison, whatnot, vegetable that I grew, whatever it is, mango but to share the story of where food comes from, I think is very important, because I think so many times in this world of just consumerism and convenience, we just we consume a lot of things without even thinking about where they came from, and then we have a lot less appreciation for it, and so a lot more waste happens because of that. You might buy something from the store or a restaurant and it can be left in your fridge and you can forget about it. And you're probably not going to feel that bad. If you do, you're just going to be like, oh, that stinks, throw it out. Yeah. It's a different story when you really know the story of something. When you have this fish or this harvest, whatever it is, and you share it with people and you tell them the story of it, that now becomes gold. Where every single morsel is going to be appreciated. Nothing's going to be wasted. And I just think that is that used to be the story of food once upon a time. And I think it is something to hold that high as a priority, when we do gather to eat together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it makes it taste better too.
It does. Oh, for sure, it does that. And I put this in the email that I sent to you because I know it's a relatively difficult question, but I'm curious. Not everybody gets to live on the Gulf Coast like I do, or in Hawaii like you do, but everybody can sort of have conservation and appreciation in mind. And so I asked you, not everyone can do what you do, but what can they do? The people listening to us in the Midwest, or in New York or wherever.
I think that no matter where you live, you do have a backyard and an ecosystem that you can get to know. My husband's from the Midwest, and when I go there, and I've gone ice fishing and caught crappie fish or sunfish, and
the crappie. Yeah, I did that about 2 years ago. Yeah,
and gotten to know those fish and treated them like the gold that they are. I cooked it up Hawaiian style for his dad, and he couldn't believe like how good it tasted. And the same thing with New York. I mean, and not everywhere, like New York they have a lot of great food, a lot of great fish there, but they also, like, wherever you are, even if like you don't have access to fish or fishermen or whatnot, like, start at your farmer's market. Go to a farmer's market and just talk to people,
Yes.
Talk to people and get to know like where their harvest came from and the hands that like helped get it there and how that happened, or look for the guys with the coolers with the fresh fish and whatnot, and talk to them, because I don't think everybody has to like be the ones that have the hands who are doing the actual harvesting, but at least get to know the stories from the people who do.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And you are a chef. I mentioned that, and you also mentioned earlier, nothing wasted. That to me is something that a lot of people sort of gloss over as well. Like, let's say I've seen some videos of yours, with whether it's a fish head or some harvest. I know you hunt. Using every element of something. That's something that I think needs to be sort of shared a lot more too. Being able to cook it the right way and use everything that's there. Correct?
I completely agree. And I mean, that's another thing that I got to experience in going back to Minnesota. And I went hunting with my father-in-law for white-tailed deer. And when we were cleaning the animal, he was so surprised that I wanted to keep the shanks, those bottom calves. And he told me that's something that they just normally like leave in the field or whatnot. And I was like, you're never going to leave it there again. And I had him keep all 4 shanks. And then later on, we just took a saw and sawed through it. And I made him osobuco for the first time of just braised venison shank meat, because he used to always thought like, oh, it's so, it's so tough. It's got so much sinew in it. Like, I don't even know if it's worth putting in the grinder. We'll just leave it. But getting to know those tougher parts, and it ended up being so delicious, because when you braise it, when you cook it slowly, all those tendons and tissues that are tough, those are the things that melt down and become like, they emulate fat the most, which we don't get a lot of wild game. And it was just the most tender, beautiful Thanksgiving meal we had,
on Thanksgiving even, huh?
Yeah.
See, now you're talking my language. I have a buddy who actually does the podcast with me that gives me the shanks on his deer, and I make barbacoa. And it's so good. You get same premise as what you're talking about, but making
totally. I think these are all lessons that I actually like learned these values from those days where my family didn't have much. And my family was doing what they could to be resourceful, to make things stretch and make things last. And I don't even think that was way before like the words, sustainability were even in our vocabulary as much as they are now. But I think my mom and my grandma were teaching me these things because they were just trying to make the meal last, but they ended up being so delicious. And they also understood that if you take care of what takes care of you, you will never go hungry, And so even when it came to like the fish guts after cleaning it, like, we're not going to eat the fish guts, but it was very important to my grandma that I would go bury it under her tomato plant, and that fertilizer would then give us the best tomatoes, you know. And so it really was an education that I don't even think they realized they were giving me.
Right. The other thing that I think is important, and this is going back to your chef element here, is we have such a shrinking world. I mean, here I am talking to you in Oahu about cooking. I'm in Houston right now, and we have Korean food off the charts. We have Indian food off the charts. We have obviously Pan-Pacific food off the charts. The shrinking world that we live in, again, for our listeners, I don't know if people necessarily try to learn these things the way they should. And thank goodness for people like yourself and others that you can find these things. You know, I think our menu, so to speak, that we make at home is no longer, if you're from the South, it's chicken fried steak. If it's there's such a diversity now that you can tap into, correct?
I totally agree. And it's really refreshing to hear you say that. Like, as you mentioned, I just wrote a cookbook. It's about to come out into the world in March, but I definitely do wonder, like, you know, is the world ready for this? Because a lot of the recipes in there, you know, that's what it is. It's like whole fish with their head still on and the bone still in, like how we eat them here in Hawaii. You know, it's all of these flavors, you know, that are definitely a cross between like Asian cuisines and whatnot, as Hawaii is a melting pot. And it's all of these things that I really do hope, hearing you say, that's really nice to know that maybe somebody in Houston could benefit from opening this book, because the whole point
here's one right here, and I know there's more.
Because the whole point of it is that no matter where you are, we can all eat like this. And I think it just makes it so much more delicious, so much more exciting, you know.
Exciting. It does make it exciting. You know, we have a tradition in my house. My kids are all grown now, and we got bored basically with ham or turkey every Christmas, because you have turkey on Thanksgiving and all that. So my oldest son, about I think 11, 12 years ago now, he said, "Dad, let's pick a country every year for our Christmas dinner, and let's cook everything we know about that country and do the research." And so we've done Italy, and we've done we did Vietnam one year. We've done Germany. We've done, name the country. We did Panama one year. And so, the shrinking world makes us all better, and it widens the menu. So before I go on, where can people catch that book? So I don't want to forget, in terms of where they can get it.
Thank you so much. Well, it's going to be called Kimi's Kitchen. It's an ocean woman's guide to wild home cooking, and it'll be available on Amazon, Target, pretty much anywhere online where books are sold. It's going to be published by it is published by Penguin Random House. And so, yeah, Kimi's Kitchen, Kimi. If you search it up anywhere books are sold, you should be able to get it.
And it's going to have the whole gamut of your basically experience.
It is. It's in a lot of ways, it's like a biography, but centered on food. And so every chapter, starts up with the chapters of the humble dishes that raised me. And then it just goes on. And even like my husband has a chapter in it where it's called Maui Meets Midwest, because when you talk about country fried steaks, I am not snobbing that. Those are delicious, And so when I got together with my husband, I wanted to find ways to make his comfort food that he grew up with. I remember asking him, "What's your biggest comfort food?" And he told me it's called tater tot hot dish. And that's a Minnesota.
All right.
So I just found ways to use venison, use other things and make these kind of Midwest comfort foods. And so there's a chapter for that. There's a chapter for my son. So it's things that I like to make with kids and that kids like to eat, but still they just come from nature,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's fantastic. Let me ask you a little bit more about the field to table. We've talked about the ocean to table or whatever, however you want to describe it. Field to table is something we can do across the country, across the globe. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like this is something that needs to be explored more by more people?
I mean, I think so. I think that I think that anything that like gets us to go out and explore and connect with the natural world, like whether we're talking, game, or whether we're even just talking plants. I think that field to table is an amazing concept that it not only can help make our diets more healthy, this planet more healthy, but I also think it'll give a lot more meaning to people's life. And I think, one thing that we forget often as humans, I believe, is that it's not like there's us and there's nature. We are nature. We are a part of nature. And I think that the way that this modern world has gotten so busy and so fast paced, sometimes I think it's as simple as getting out in nature and getting to know the names of plants, getting to know, or whether you're, bow hunting has taught me so much, because crawling around in the dirt, just getting to know what that dirt smells like, getting to know what plants are pokey, what plants make too much noise, what plants are cool. I'll never look at a field the same. And there's something about that gives my life more meaning, as weird as that sounds, but it's because it gives me a sense of belonging to this world. And I think as human beings, that is something we all crave, is a sense of belonging. And oftentimes we chase it in job titles and statuses or cars or whatnot, and we're trying to fill something. But I do think the more that we just get out into nature and become a part of it, the more we can feel something.
Yeah. Are you more of an open fire cook or a little bit of everything?
A little bit of everything. A little bit of everything. I love open fire, but Traeger grills became my sponsor many, many years ago, and I just can't even explain how easy and how delicious that has made cooking. So
I got a timberline right outside this window here.
Right? Especially when it comes to like wild game. Oh my gosh. Like a game changer.
So let's get that out there as well. Traeger, I know you're an ambassador. Where else?
I am an ambassador for Yeti coolers and drinkware. I'm an ambassador for Patagonia clothing, an ambassador for Old footwear, Costa sunglasses, Protect hydration products, Traeger grills, Rife International. They make all of my spearfishing stuff. Yeah, and so really, really great sponsors.
All right, so I do like to get some, sort of, I guess recipes, but also pick the brain a little bit of every pitmaster and chef and cook that we have on here. So down here or up here and sideways here in the 48, a lot of salmon, a lot of tuna, a lot of white fish like halibut or whatever. Give us something of what you would do with that.
I mean, when it comes to halibut, this might sound really boring, but gosh, there's just like this simple, easy baked fish recipe that when I just want to eat something with minimum effort, but all the delicious reward, that's what I do. And it's just like a simple, cut your fish up into small portion pieces. Make sure that you're generous with good flaky salt, coarse ground pepper. It's very simple, so at least make sure the simple things you're using, you're using them well, So nice, generous that. And then just like a pat of good butter on top of every single piece, and garlic, some minced garlic, sprinkle it on every piece, some chopped parsley, and then just like drizzle some really good olive oil over it and squeeze some lemon over it and just pop that in the oven at about 400 degrees just until that fish is cooked through. It depends how big you cut it, but probably like 9-10 minutes and you're good.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
It sounds, you had
it's
me
so
at
simple.
that.
It's so simple, but it's really, really good.
Before we let you go, where can people find you? Because it is very entertaining and informative, and they can find out a lot more about what you're doing and really every aspect of your life.
Oh, thank you so much. Instagram is probably my most used platform. And so on Instagram, my name is Kimi Swimmy. That's KIMI underscore SWIMMY.
Mhm.
And I have a website, KimiWerner.com, but Instagram's usually the best way.
Are you going diving today?
It's so windy and the waves are up today. So perfect day for a podcast.
How often do you go?
So it's very weather dependent. When the weather is good, I try to get in the water as much as I can. And if I'm going, 4 times a week or whatever, that's a lot because I don't really need that much fish.
Mhm.
And so I start getting really, really, really selective, but I just want to be out there and want to be underwater. But as long as I'm getting in like on an average once a week, it keeps me
You get the shake. You get the shakes if you don't go once a week at least.
Oh,
That's how
totally.
I am with fishing.
Exactly.
And do you fish conventional?
I do. I'm nothing special at it, but I love it. I love it so much that if you were to ever take me fishing, you'll just watch me like go crazy. Like I get
Yeah.
very excited to fight a fish. I get very angry and devastated to lose a fish. I'm an emotional fisher.
We all are.
Really gets me. Yeah.
Hey, well, you know where to find me. I got a boat down in Aransas Pass. We can do some flats fishing, catch some redfish, flounder,
Amazing.
speckled trout. I'll send you some pictures. But Kimi, very much appreciated it. And again, people can find you at Kimi Swimmy. That's how I found you. And certainly all your platforms. You have some good YouTube stuff. The book is coming. What's the book called again?
It's called Kimi's Kitchen, an ocean woman's guide to wild home cooking.
And there's so much more we could have talked to you about today, but I do want to keep the podcast and not keep you too long. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you so much. So nice
All
chatting.
right. That's Kimi Werner. This has been the Bite podcast brought to you by Texas Star Grill Shop. Don't forget to subscribe. You guys have a great week, great weekend. Smoke it up and have a good, and we'll see you next week.